We're going to practice some face down postures. The Sphinx posture with twists, the Sphinx posture and into Cobra with twists, which are kidney compressions. And then we will back stretch into the swan position, which will release the tension from your back. So starting off by just coming down onto your mat, straighten the body, bring your elbows close to your rib cage, all of the forearm rests upon the ground, spread your fingers, the Sphinx posture. Raise head and shoulders slowly upwards as you press your elbows into the mat. Looking straight ahead, tuck your toes under and lift your knees away from the floor. As you look straight ahead, take 5 slow longevity breaths. Breathe in through your nose and blow the air gently downwards towards the floor over the lips. 5 breaths. Keep your chest elevated away from the mat. On completion of the 5th breath, release your toes and slowly lower down onto the mat. Bring your hands above your head, let your head rest on one side and take a few deep breaths as you allow your heels to drop outwards, relaxing your hips and lower back. A few deep breaths. Now slowly draw your elbows close to your rib cage, forearms resting upon the mat, straighten up your feet. Raise head and shoulders upwards, lifting, pressing your elbows into the floor. Tuck your toes under and lift your knees away from your mat and hold. We're now going to do gentle spinal twisting, which compresses the kidney. Firstly, turning to the right, take an in-breath, and as you gently breathe out, slowly turn your head and look over your right shoulder. Keep your chest elevated off the mat if you can. 5 breaths. After the 5th breath, return to the central position. Breathe in. Release your toes, breathe out and lower down. Rest a moment or two, because we're going to repeat that on the left side. Once again, bring your forehead forwards. Raise head and shoulders slowly upwards as you breathe in. Press your elbows into the mat. As you breathe out, tuck your toes under, lifting your knees off the mat. Gentle flowing breath. Twisting slowly to the left. Take an in-breath. And as you breathe out, slowly turn your head to look over your left shoulder, compressing the left kidney. 5 breaths as you hold this position. After the 5th breath, return to the central position, breathing in. As you breathe out, release your toes, lower down. Bring your hands above your head, head on one side. Let your toes touch and your heels drop outwards. Take a few deep breaths. And now you've got the idea of that, we're going to repeat it once again. Bringing your elbows close to your rib cage, glue your elbows to your ribs, and then let your forearms rest on the mat, separate your fingers, bring your feet together. Raise head and shoulders upwards, pressing your elbows into the mat, look straight ahead, breathe in. Tucking your toes under, breathe out as you lift your knees away from the mat. Gentle flowing breath. And hold for 5 longevity breaths now. In through your nose. Blow the air gently over the lips downwards towards the floor. 5 slow breaths. On completion of the 5th breath, release your toes and slowly lower yourself down onto the mat. Head on one side, hands above your head. Let your toes touch and your heels drop away from each other to release and relax the lower back and the hips and the legs and the feet. Take a few deep breaths now. A conscious awareness of your breathing, a controlled flow of the breath. Now bring your elbows close to your rib cage once again, forearms resting upon the mat. Spread the fingers. Bring your feet together, forehead down. The Sphinx posture with twists, kidney compressions. Breathe in as you raise head and shoulders upwards, press your elbows into the mat. Gentle flowing breath. On an out breath, tuck your toes under. Breathe in again. And as you breathe out, turn to look over your right shoulder. 5 longevity breaths in through the nose. Blow the air over the lips 5 times, slowly. Keep your chest elevated away from the mat. On completion of the 5th breath, return to the central position, breathing in. On your out breath, release your toes and lower down. Keep your hands in that position for a moment or two. Just let your toes drop away from, touch each other, and your heels drop away from each other. Take a few deep breaths. Now we're going to turn to the left side. So forehead down towards the mat. Straighten the feet up. Breathe in as you raise head and shoulders upwards. Press your elbows into the mat. Tuck the toes under as you breathe out. Breathe in again. And as you breathe out, slowly twist to look over your left shoulder. And here we take 5 longevity breaths. In through the nose. Blow the air over the lips. 5 slow breaths. Return to the center as you breathe in. Release the toes. Breathe out and lower down. Head on one side. Now take your hands back. Let your toes touch and your heels drop away from each other. Just place your hands like that on the kidney area. Breathe. And release. Bring your hands forwards. Raise up onto your knees. Take your knees to the edge of the mat and let your toes touch together. Sit down towards your heels, pushing your hands forwards into the swan, Hamasana, the swan posture. Drop your forehead down onto the mat. Hold. Breathe in through the nose, looking back to the toes, blow the air to your toes. In through the nose, blow the air to your toes. 5 slow breaths equate to 10 seconds of holding. On completion of your 5th breath, raise your head, walk your hands back towards your knees. And now we're going to go into the Sphinx posture with Cobra raise. So bring your knees together, walk your hands forwards once again and lie face down onto your mat. Bringing your elbows close to your rib cage once again, spread the fingers. Legs straight and feet together. Raise head and shoulders upwards as you press your elbows into the mat. Look straight ahead. Watch the flow of the breath, awareness of your breathing. Then tuck your toes under, lifting your knees off the mat, contracting the lower back. Push into the mat and lift a little higher and look up. And lower down to Sphinx once again. This time separate your feet apart from each other. Press into the mat and lift and look up. And lower down to a Sphinx position. Bring your feet together. Press into the mat and lift and look up. And lower down to Sphinx position. Separate your feet apart from each other. Press into the mat and look up. And lower down to Sphinx position. Bring your feet together and lower down. Hands above your head. Let your toes touch and your heels drop away from each other. Take a few deep breaths. Now once again, pressing your hands into the mat, come up onto your knees, separate your knees to the edge of the mat and your toes touch together, bringing yourself back onto your heels if you can. If you can't do that, just stay in that position, it doesn't matter. Walking your hands forwards, extending and stretching the muscles of your back, sitting back onto the heels as much as you can, drop your forehead to the mat. Look down towards your toes. Breathe in through your nose. Blow the air to your toes. 5 slow breaths. On completion of your 5th breath, walk your hands back towards your knees. Bring your knees together. Walk your hands forwards and stretch out your body onto the mat once again. Separate your feet to the edge of the mat and keep your toes touching the ground. Have your hands with fingertips just above the level of your shoulders, ready for a cobra lift. Bhujangasana, the cobra posture. Raise head and shoulders upwards. Push into the mat. Lift your hips off the floor and then drop your shoulders down and let your hips come forwards and down onto the mat. Look up and back. Watch the flow of the breath. And now slowly lower down. Head on one side. Relax a moment, take 2 or 3 deep breaths. We're going to prepare for the spinal twist, kidney compression movements from this cobra position. Bring your forehead forwards onto the mat. Raise head and shoulders slowly upwards as you breathe in. Lift and then drop your hips down. Relax the shoulders down. Look straight ahead. Breathe in. And as you breathe out, turn to the right and look towards your right heel and hold for 5 breaths. On completion of the 5th breath, return to the center and lower down. Rest a moment or 2, deep breathing. On completion of 3 breaths, bring your forehead forwards. Twisting this time to the left side, raise head and shoulders upwards, lifting, and then lower the hips down and drop your shoulders. Breathe in. On your out breath, turn to look over your left shoulder toward your left heel. 5 breaths. On completion, return to the center as you breathe in and lower down on your out breath. Bring your feet together, let your toes touch and your heels drop outwards. Take your hands above your head. 3 or 4 deep breaths. And then when you feel ready, bring your hands back and press into the mat. Come up onto your knees. Separate your knees to the edge of the mat. Touch your toes together and come down onto your heels. Hamasana, the swan. Now we will be doing an elevation with this. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. If you have any problems with eye troubles or high blood pressure, do not do the elevation. Bringing your hands forwards. Walk your hands forwards as far as you can, stretching into your back, and then sit down towards your heels as you drop your forehead down onto the mat and look towards your feet. Breathe in through the nose. Blow the air to your toes for 5 longevity breaths. On completion of the 5th breath, sweep your hands down to your sides. Turn hands, palms uppermost. Now with this one, we're going to roll onto the crown of the head, but if you do not wish to do that, all you can do is just lift your arms like that and hold for the 5 breaths. Otherwise, for those who can, raise up onto the crown of your head and raise your arms up into the air. And again, breathe in through the nose, blow the air to your toes. 5 breaths. On completion of your 5th breath, sit down onto your heels. Keep your forehead on the floor for a moment or two, and then slowly raise your head up and come up to sitting position, and then bring your knees together. Turning to counterpose the movements that we've been doing, we're going to roll on our backs. So what you need to do here is just draw your knees up towards you and just hold underneath the back of your legs like that. Okay, so what we're going to do then is draw the thighs like that, close to the chest. Just a little rolling movement, up and down, 10 times. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, one more, and 10. Now you can continue to do that, or for those who wish to go a little further, cross your right ankle over your left and take hold of your feet. We're going to roll up and down, rolling like a ball. Roll over and up and over and up and 3 and up, 4 and up, 5 and up, 6 and up, 7 and up, 8 and up, 9 and up, one more, and 10 and up. Excellent, well done. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. There's more to come. Thank you.